Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the SHS Open Forum. I have Maggie here from Dublin and Lucy. So I have the last few times that I have hosted this open forum, I have come with something prepared, usually a case, a small case, and shown the software through the lens of that case. But what I thought today to do is, since this is an advanced session, and that basically only means that the people who are attending have been using the software for some little time and are beginning to be familiar with it. So what I thought to do instead of showing you something was to have you ask me questions and respond to those, especially if you are working with the program and are trying to do things with it, but you don't exactly know how to make the program respond the way that you want to in terms of getting the information that you need. Just go ahead and put your questions. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and just while you get your thoughts together in terms of questions, I thought what I could start with is to show you, if you were going to study a single remedy, how the program can help you do that, and the different parts of the program that are there to help you study a single remedy. So obviously the program will always open in repertory module, and one of the ways to study a remedy is with the repertory module. So what I would do here is you will use your filter in the repertory module to filter out the entire repertory, well, all of the repertories that you have and all their chapters by the one remedy that you're thinking of. And I think I'm going to choose a smaller remedy because if I pick up one of the polycrests, it's a lot of information. So you just come here in your global filter, not in one of the chapter filters, because that will only do it temporarily in the moment for that chapter from that repertory. So you come here to the global filter, and it's already pre-selected for remedy. And I'm just going to use ozone today. It's the first small remedy that came to my mind. And click on apply. And you see that the filter button will go red or pink. And then when you open any of the chapters in any of the repertories, actually, I should have chosen a smaller chapter, but that's okay. Everything will be filtered for, that's not okay. Let's try. Am I in the 23? No. Okay, let's choose another remedy. Maybe sometimes Roger changes the abbreviations for the remedies, and I'm wondering if I picked the wrong one. Let's go with and you can also come here and see what's in there. So I'll take this one out. And now let's choose one. Shouldn't take that long. Oh, there we go. So now I have filtered all of my repertories and all of the chapters for Calc Self. And all of the rubrics that you see here are for that remedy. So let's say, you have a case of acne and you're considering Calc Self. You can look at Calc Self. You can go into any part of your repertory module, basically. And right now it will only show you Calc Self. And so this way you can see, the kind of rubrics that are coming up and whether the kinds of pathologies or mind states that you're looking for are in the case that you're evaluating. So this is the first way to study a remedy in the program. The other place that you can find this would be to go in your reference module. And here you have two different ways of studying the remedy. One is obviously in the remedy section. You can just type, and I'll stick with Calc Self. When I type Calc-S, it will pull up, all the remedies that start with that. So now you see Calc Self here. You can expand here using the plus sign next to the remedy to see all of the references that you have available in your library for Calc Self. And because I have some of my favorite books pinned at the top, those references will appear first, and then it will go after the first 5, which are pinned, then it goes alphabetical. And you can always, come down into your references. And then let's say you're looking for something further down in the alphabet. You don't have to scroll all the way. You can just type whatever it is that you're looking for. So let's say I am looking for Vermeulen. I just typed VER and it went up to the synoptic one that, I have already pinned. But let's say you were looking for something starting with M, and I'm going to just type MIR. And that also is one of the things I've pinned. Obviously, the names that come to me are the ones that I end up using. Let's see. I just typed SA. And it again goes to, okay, so I don't know if, let's see, TH. And there isn't any. So somebody throw out some references that I would want to see somewhere in the, let's see, would there be anything with MA? Let's go. There we go. So I typed MA and it took me to the first of Massimo's references that would have Calc Self as a remedy. And so you have all of these here, the references that you want for Calc Self. That's the second way. The third way would be to go into books here. And what I like to do in books is to really look at a reverse repertory for that remedy. So let's say I choose one of the complete reverse repertories, and then I would explode that and I could come to Calc and it will type the first 3. So I typed the first 3 letters and it took me to Caladium, but you could type CALS. And then anyway, you can come to Calc Self here, and then you have Calc Self in reverse. So these are all the rubrics for Calc Self that have been extracted from the repertoire, from the reverse repertory of the complete 2019. And they are all grouped here by chapter. So that would be another way to look at the remedy. The fourth way would be to use your global search screen. And you can pull up things here that are more specific to Calc Self. For example, let's say that you were only interested in the dreams of Calc Self. And, so obviously in the repertory module, you could not isolate just the dreams. You would have to go into the mind section and scroll till you came to to the dreams. And that would be the same case in the reference library, where you're going to have to go through a certain portion of the information to come to what you're looking at. But in global search, I could just type, let's say, dream, and then I could filter it. Let's say I'm only going to do a repertory search. I could filter it here by repertory and by remedy. And I could say CalcSolve here, apply the filter, go apply, and then run that search. So now, of course, it's just a repertory search. And I'm going to click this magnifying glass here to run the search. And you can see that the word, so dreams will obviously appear not just in the mind section, but also in some of the other sections. But you can here see all of your repertories along with any of the rubrics that have the word dream in them. And you can see a listing of those. So this is much more targeted when you're trying to look at specific parts of a remedy. And of course, then the final way to do that would be to come in here in advanced search. And there are two different tools you can use here. One is just, of course, to look at the remedy completely. And you can search the remedy and apply that filter. And now you have a choice of choosing which book you're looking for, which section. Do you want to, how many, what is the size of the rubric that you're looking for? And if you had multiple remedies in here, you could choose how many remedies you wanted to be matched with that search criteria. So let's say I was looking at CalcSolve as well as CalcSilicata, then it would ask you, do you want to find all the rubrics with at least one of those remedies or both of those remedies? So that's what the match at least means. And then you can choose, do you want it to find rubrics that have more than 10 remedies, less than 10 remedies, between 5 and 10 remedies, more than 30 remedies. So the larger rubrics, the smaller rubrics, you can also choose that. And so let's choose a small section. And I only have one remedy that I'm studying at the moment, so it will stay at 1. And here, as I said, you can choose how many rubrics in the remedy. So let's say 10 or less. In that case, maybe we want to choose a little bit of a bigger section. So here, let's see. And then if I want to keep my old search, because I already ran a search in global search with dreams, if I want to keep that, then I'm going to hit the plus sign here. If you click on the search button, it's going to override your previous search. So I don't want that. And so I'm going to run a second search. So you can see it kept my dream search and it's now running a second search. And I don't know if there are rubrics. There are rubrics in the head section of the complete. I think it was the complete checked off with CalcSolve in them that have less than 10 remedies in the rubric. And so this would be the other way to look at a remedy in a more focused manner. And then, of course, if you want to compare the CalcSolve and see how it compares maybe with another calc, then we would come here. And I'm also going to choose SIL because we mentioned it before. And now you see that both remedies are in here. And I want to see the rubrics that are in CalcSolve, that are in CalcSolve, but not in Calcarea Silicata. And I am going to see that in the 2021. And let's look at skin, which is a much bigger section, but this will give us the rubrics in the skin chapter in which only Calcarea sulf appears and not Calcarea silicata. And in fact, that might be a lot of them. So I'm going to turn this around because calc sulf, has a lot of skin rubrics. And then it will still be only one because I'm only looking for one remedy. And I'll say any number. And then I'm going to do a new search. So I'm clicked the plus instead of the search button. And you can see now that it's pulled up, there's quite a few, it's pulled up all of the skin rubrics in which you have calc sil, but not calc sulf. And so that is also a way to study a remedy, but as a reflection or as a comparison against another close remedy. And so those are all the ways that I would look at a remedy and go deeper. Okay, I see that there are comments in chat and some questions. So Lucy and Maggie, if we have questions, then yeah.
Roopali, I think there's often a little bit of confusion about a reversed repertory. Like,
okay.
on what scenarios would you use the reversed rep?
So what I personally use the reversed rep for is if I am looking at a remedy for a patient and the patient, so this is specifically how I go into the program. There will be a much broader usage, and there are many people out there who use reverse. So there might be a lot of other ways that you can use it, but I find myself reaching for the reversed in general when I have a patient and I'm considering a remedy for them, but they are presenting with pathology that I don't usually associate with that remedy. And so then I go in to check. So let's go back in here. We had calc sulf. If they don't, I would think of calc sulf generally in terms of the calcarea pathologies and the sulfur pathology, skin and suppuration and discharges and, all of that. But if they're showing up with something that I don't know, periodic migraines, for example, it's not something I would immediately think of calc sulf for, but that's the remedy that's coming up in the case. Then I would go into calc sulf in the reverse repertory and then check what kind of headaches calc sulf has, and see if there is periodicity in the headache and if there are migraines and whether they are rubrics in bold or if they are rubrics in regular type. What I would not have thought of calc sulf as a huge headache remedy, but that's the other thing I would look in the section is how many of those chapter rubrics are headache rubrics. So how well represented is calc sulf in headaches? And so that would be that's usually the main way that I look at it is I check for things that I don't know about that remedy instead of looking at specific individual rubrics, because many times an individual rubric does not give the complete idea of that symptom, because in a repertory, complete symptoms are broken up into many different rubrics to cover that whole symptom. That's what the repertory does. So instead of pulling up individual rubrics and putting them in a clipboard to look for pathology that I don't naturally associate with that remedy, I would rather go and look at the entire chapter and see what kinds of symptoms are in there for that pathology and how well represented that remedy is for that pathology in that chapter. So that's one way. And then the other way that I use the reverse repertory is if I have two very close remedies that I'm considering for a patient, and it's really going to come down to very unique symptoms of the pathology. And the example I use most often is UTI, for example. If I'm considering, I know I'm considering a ranunculaceae remedy, and it's coming down to, they're not presenting the very individual peculiar keynotes of those remedies, and I'm lost between pulsatilla and Staphylococcus aureus. Let's say I'm making it up. Then the biggest, then I will come and I will compare in a reverse repertory. I will lay them side by side. I will look at the UTI rubrics or the specific bladder rubrics for pulsatilla versus Staphylococcus aureus. Also in an acute, this can be useful is when you are considering two remedies in an acute, then you can really put some of those very clear rubrics for that pathology in the acute against another one and compare them side by side and see. So those are the 2 or 3 ways that I use the reversed.
Maggie, do you have any more questions, or I've got one?
No, go ahead, Lucy.
Okay, so Roopali, Bridget has asked, can we filter within a remedy for rubrics of higher grade? Now, I know that the rubrics are graded by us in the clipboard, so perhaps Bridget means, you know,
No,
how do
she's
we
no.
look? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I don't think so. I mean,
I'm
Bridget
thinking
can
that we
clarify her question, but at the moment in the program, we cannot filter by grade.
except
So-
by in the repertory module, you know, we can turn on, we can only find the grade 4.
Yes, yeah,
So we
okay,
can
yes.
do that.
Let me clear the filters here. So in the repertory module, thank you for reminding me of that, Lucy. When you come into your view settings, you can choose the rubrics. So you can filter not just for the remedy, but you know, which rubrics and how you see them. So you could filter here, for example, and say, just show me grade 4 rubrics. And we can do that. So that would be one way to filter it. But if, for example, here in advanced search, we are still looking here to add a further filter. So, you know, you can match the remedy, you can dictate the size of the rubric, and then we would look to add another filter here, which would be the grade. And that work is happening at the moment. But for sure, as Lucy says, you can always come here and say, just show me grade 1 rubrics or grade 4 rubrics, and you can do that.
Roopali, there's a question around provings. Do we have provings in SHS? So could you show the filter there on the Materia Medica where you can just look at the provings?
Yes. So actually, this is another way. There is a filter button here, and you could also filter here for the remedy or remedies that you're looking at. And then your entire reference module would only be that remedy, just the same way that we filtered for it in the repertory module. So here, there are 2 different possibilities. So if you come in here, which is the book filter basically, and you can see that there are some preset categories, and you can filter your reference library with those categories. So proving is one of them. They're already preset. So if I click on provings, I have a remedy filter, so I'm going to get rid of that. And here, actually, let me reload that. So, and then let's go back here and do provings and say, okay. And now you can see that it has filtered out my entire reference library to show only the different provings that I have. And if you really, so I have done this actually when I was considering a bird remedy. and I didn't want to look at the materia medica. I wanted to only look. So you can actually do a double filter here, let's say, and you could come here and you could type birds and say apply. And now you only have provings that are bird provings, vulture, falcon, sparrow, falcon, dove. And so you could even filter more specifically, not just for provings, but for a specific group of provings. And just to remind you, this is in the reference library. And it doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually matter whether you are clicked on remedies or books, but you come here to the book icon to choose what category of books you're looking at. And then you can come to the filter icon here to choose if you're looking at either a single remedy or a group of remedies.
Roopali, could you run quickly through how to set your own custom category?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other possibility here in terms of filtering the books is to create a custom category. These are already created for you, but if you wanted, so obviously this is by, category of book. So there's clinical material and journals and natural history, et cetera, but let's say you wanted to create your own custom category. You could click this last option here and go to create. And you can, give it a name, your own name. And so let's say, I'm just going to say my favorite books. Okay. And then what it's doing is it's giving you your entire library. And you can choose the books that you want. So let's say I wanted to create a category only for Dr. Shankran's books. Then I could type that and it will show me all the books that I have for Dr. Shankran. And let's say I just want to do a plant cat, let's do plants, and then we'll put provings in there. And we'll put the general books, but not the animal books and not the mineral books. So we'll do this, and we'll do Soul of Remedies, and we'll do cases, because the rest are other specific parts of materia medica. Refined sensation we can put there, random notes we can put there, and say save. And now when I go in here, you see there is a category here called My Favorites, and that's all of Dr. Shankran's books that I put in there that are not animal or mineral. And so if I want to filter now with this, I can say, okay. And you see the books that were in that category, it's filtered all of the books for that. So you can do it by author, or you can do it by the kind of information that's contained in there. The other very nice thing about creating custom categories is that then I could filter here. I could run a filter in global search, and I'm going to clear the old filter out. And let's say now I want to run, and this would be, so as you can see now, these are all materia medica books. It's a materia medica filter or a category. So I'm not going to run a repertory search. I'm going to run a reference library search. And let's say I want to look at chocolate. And I'm going to look for the category. And you see my category. I'm only going to look for chocolate in the references that I have created in my custom category. And so I'm going to click this as well. And I'm going to say apply. And now I have to remember, because I'm running a reference library search and my previous search was a repertory search. So if I ran the search now, it's going to come up with no result, because I'm running the search in a category of Materia Medica books, but my repertory search is highlighted. So these are just little things that, you know, you have to remember. And so now I'm running a reference library search with dreams of chocolate, but only in this my custom category. And so let's see what happens when I do that. So you can already see that it's running a reference library search, and it's looking only at chocolate, you can see, and then the books are all Dr. Shankran books on the right. I mean, the books that I, you know, it could be anything. Your custom category could be anything. And you could have several categories. But the other nice piece is not just that you look at your Materia Medica filtered out for the category that you created, but you can also run searches against that category. And yes, I mean, we searched only for chocolate. So there's 1 remedy and 35 references. So yeah, that's a custom category. We are also working, and I think this suggestion came from Betty Wood, and I think maybe a couple of other people as well. We are also working to create the possibility here where, just like you can create a custom category for books, we should be able to create a custom category for remedies. And, you know, while in general, you see a lot of movement towards natural history and classification, but there are still other groupings that you can make that are not just a regular natural history classification. And so it would, you know, for example, drug remedies don't generally follow a plant, mineral, animal kingdom classification. You can have drug remedies from all of those 3 kingdoms, including fungi. And so you can create your custom category of remedies as well. And that work is happening. And then you would be able to filter searches through that custom category as well as a custom category of books. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Could you show how to view 2 remedies side by side in the Materia Medica, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. So I'm just going to, there's a lot of filters everywhere. So I'm going to reload the program so it cleans out and gives me a blank slate. And that's something you can also do. So let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. So to look at 2 remedies side by side, obviously we have the compare button, which I demonstrated earlier here, compare remedies. That compares them in a little bit of a different fashion. But for example, so comparing 2 remedies, obviously you can compare different sources for those 2 remedies. All things being equal, I prefer to use the same author to compare 2 remedies, or at least the same kind of, you know, like either a reverse repertory or an author that's written about both of those remedies. And then there are the material is presented in the same way. And there are no differences in terms of, if you use 2 different authors, then the material will be presented a different way. There might be different ways of approaching remedies or in the way that they work. So I try in general to use the same source for both the remedies I'm comparing. So since we already talked about using a reverse, so let's go to, actually, let's see. So here we go. And let's say that we want to compare Abies canadensis with Abies nigra. Let's just do those. So then I would click on Abies canadensis, and it will give you, it will start with the mind section, and it will give you all of the information on Abies canadensis. And then I'm going to just come down to Abies nigra, and I'm going to do a right click or a control click. So in the Mac keyboard, you're going to hold down the control key and then click, and it will give you open in a new window. So I'm going to click that. And now I have two different tabs, one with Abies nigra and one with Abies canadensis. And I'm going to come here to this rectangle here, which says compare tabs side by side. And the tab that is blue or dark blue is your active tab. So you want to put the one that you want to compare against, again, you know, so sorry, I'm not saying that clearly. Your active tab is the dark blue tab, and you want to put the light blue tab on its side, which is Abies nigra. So I'm going to select Abies nigra because this is already the dominant tab, Abies canadensis, and click OK. And now you can see that you have the two remedies side by side, and you can see this is the advantage of using the same author or the same source. It's laid out in exactly the same way. I could do this for Fatak, for example, and because all of his remedies and write-ups follow the same pattern, it's easier to compare side by side. It's much harder if this is an essay on the right and these are rubrics on the left. So that the effect of the comparison is not as strong when the kind of material you're looking at is different on the two sides. And so you can now look at the mind section of one remedy against the mind section of the other remedy. And they're both, I guess, roughly similar sized remedies. So that's also nice because you have roughly the same amount of rubrics on both sides. Obviously, you know, if you're choosing to compare a very small remedy against a very large remedy, you're going to have like 5 rubrics on one side and I don't know, 40 on the other. And so that's also not such a great comparison. But yeah, the process is to open the different remedies that you want to look at as tabs up here. So for example, now we have Abies canadensis and we have Abies nigra open. Let's see. I can also go here to Abies balsamia, and I don't know this as a remedy. And I can do a right click and say open in a new window. And you see now that Abies balsamia is here. And now on this side, we have Abies nigra. If you wanted, you know, you can always go back. You can come back here and you can see now you have all 3. And Abies nigra is still being compared, but you could go here. And I think that is still, so let's see what happens. Yeah, so now you have these two side by side, and obviously this is a much smaller remedy, and that's what I mean. So we don't even have a mind section in the complete 2019 or 2019 so it's a much harder comparison. So you do, you know, when you're comparing, you do want things that are roughly the same size, and it makes it easier to do that comparison.
Thanks, Roopali.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the history button and show where the history button is in the repertory module, please?
Sure. So the history button is going to be within the chapter of any repertory. It's not going to be out here in the global repertory module, but when you go into a chapter, you can see this last button here that looks like a clock, but with a reverse arrow, and that's the history button. So we haven't really created a clipboard today, but let's say I put some, and then let's see, let's put English, and let's put, so I have, 4 rubrics, and of course I went straight to them and I didn't do anything else. But if I had my cross references turned on, for example, and then I was trying to look at all the different possibilities, let's see here. Then I did this, and then maybe I did this, and I go to some other, and I'm just randomly putting things. But when you come here, it shows you all of the places that you went in the mind section. And so if you let's say you're chasing a certain symptom and you're looking at different cross-references, all of the places that you went to, you collected all the rubrics, but now you want to go back to some of the earlier rubrics that you were looking at, because I didn't have my references turned on at that time, my cross-references, or because you want to chase another idea, then you can come back into the history of all the places you went to, and you can go back to and revisit some of your earlier rubrics. And it makes it easy to do that, so you don't have to, open your clipboard, check where you were, type those words out. You can just find that rubric here and click on it, and will take you here back to absent-minded. And now I can chase some of these other ideas that come up in the cross-references for absent-minded. That's usually what I use it for, is cross-references and chasing cross-references from earlier ideas. But you can have all your history there. What else do we have in terms of queries?
And there is another question there, just asking, can you explain what cross-references are? I know you've talked about that somewhat.
No, that's fine. So like I mentioned kind of briefly before, a symptom that comes up in approving, a complete symptom, sometimes cannot be expressed completely in one rubric. And that idea can also be not just in that one chapter, but can also, parts of that symptom and parts of that characteristic can be in different places in the repertory. So cross-references is a collection of all of the nuances and aspects of a certain characteristic or a symptom. And they are presented to you. You can, in your view settings, one of the options is to turn on your cross-references. And right now my cross-references are turned on because they are checked off here. And so these are all of the other suggestions. So for example, foolish behavior. Foolish behavior is also suggested by and has nuances of in all of these other rubrics, grimacing, playing antics, being frivolous, idiocy, foolish answers, behaving foolishly, childish behavior, foolish expression. And so it's a way, it's a way for you to consider other rubrics that might capture this quality of foolishness. And so these are suggestions that are offered to you when you come to foolish behavior as a rubric, to say, well, look, here there are several other rubrics that also speak to this quality, and maybe you might want to consider some of these other rubrics instead of or in addition to foolish behavior. So the other thing, so I'm going to just open a second clipboard here. The other thing you can also do by looking at some of these other options and putting them on the clipboard is to create a theme of foolishness or silliness or childishness. And then you can, combine all of those different rubrics that represent some idea of foolish behavior or foolishness under a theme. So cross-references really just help you understand all the different places that a symptom might reside in, the complete symptom, and some other rubrics that you could consider for expressing that quality that you are thinking of in your patient.
Roopali, Betty asked a question if you could discuss grouping rubrics in the clipboard.
Sure. So let's just put foolish behavior in, and then I'm going to put foolish expression. And so now there is no back button for me to go back to foolish behavior, but there were a lot of other cross references there that I would have liked to use. So that's where I come to my history and I go back to foolish behavior, and I can chase some of those other. So mind, I don't want delirium. I want childish behavior. And then in childish behavior too, there's other aspects that come up in terms of cross references. So I'm going to put frivolous. And now in my clipboard, I have some rubrics here that represent an idea of silliness or foolishness. And I can group them together. So I come to this second icon with the plus sign on it inside the file. I think it's a file folder, and it says make group. And I can say theme, foolish, say okay. And so, oh, I had not, but which is fine. So, you can also just drag and drop them in here. I think it works. Yes. So let's see. So I didn't select all of them before I created the theme, but I can just, it's a very easy correction. You can either create a new theme, ungroup that, or you can just drag and drop them under theme foolish, and they all get theme like grouped in here. And now you just have a theme called foolish, and there are 4 rubrics in there. And in your repertorization graph, it will just appear as the foolish theme. But if you ever want to see what the rubrics are, you can always look at them here. And then as I just showed, you can drag and drop rubrics in or out of the theme. So if you change your mind about frivolous, for example, you can just pull it out and it will come out of that theme, and it can be its own rubric. And then obviously as its own rubric, it will also appear on your graph. Was there something specific about grouping rubrics that Betty wanted to know about, or basically just sort of like how to group rubrics?
Betty, if you could type that response in Q&A box.
While you're on there, Kirsta is asking, can you expand the theme in the graph?
No.
No, actually you can't.
No, you can't. So once you name the theme, in the graph, it will only appear as that new custom combined rubric that you have created. But in your clipboard, you can expand that and see what are the different rubrics in there.
If you wanted to look at the individual rubrics within the group, you could open another clipboard, put the group on the clipboard and ungroup them.
Yes, you could do that.
Do you want to show that, Roopali?
Yes, yes. And in fact, you don't even have to, you could just, I think I can.
Yes, you can do it there.
Yeah, I can just do these and I can say Command or Control C, and you can see it says rubric copied here on the lower left corner. And then I can go and create a new clipboard, come into the clipboard, say Command V, and those 3 rubrics are now here, just copied as individual rubrics. And you can look at how they look in here individually. And then you can come back in here and look at them grouped and how they're playing out against your other rubrics. So there's actually, you don't even have to ungroup them. And
have
I mean, I find it quite easy now to have all your different clipboards laid out and change things around. And you could just, you know, if you decided that you wanted to look at them all as individual rubrics, you could just take Mind Frivolous, drag it and drop it in here, and it will copy and paste. Like you don't even have to do copy and paste. You can just easily drag and drop rubrics anywhere. And it's quite simple.
And your team foolish, you can rename that.
Yes, yes. You can go back and you can, you know, go back and change that name out. You can also, you know, just compare these two graphs separately now, because one of them has the individual rubrics and one of them has the theme. And so you can look at this this way. And you can see the remedies coming up are different. I mean, Mark is number 6 here and it's number 1 here, but you could also just come here in this main clipboard icon above the actual clipboards and do a right click here. And I could say here, compare clipboards 2 and 3. And it could lay it out for you like this. The disadvantage here is I'm wondering, no, it's not, but I'm gonna take a picture of this because the remedies, I wonder if there's I'm gonna take a picture of this to talk to the technical team about, because the remedies aren't appearing in the same way. Beatus is appearing here at the top for both of them. But when we look at this, it's Mark and Burita. So I wonder how it ordered those. Okay, but yes, you can compare. I think we did the same.
I think it's alphabetical when you're comparing clipboards. No,
I don't think so, because it didn't seem alphabetical. You see, because look, there's bambusa all the way down here.
Oh, that's true.
Under uranium. It's not, it doesn't appear to be alphabetical.
Go to the compare view. Is that alphabetical?
This is the compare view. This is the screenshot I took.
Oh, we don't see it. Sorry, we don't.
Oh, you don't see it? Sorry. Oh, maybe I'm just sharing the. Oh, okay. Sorry. So I'll, instead of doing a reshare, let me just compare again. See, Beatus comes up and calendula and nausea. Or maybe it's comparing. See?
Well, that's true.
It's as if it's put the remedies that show up for both of them first, in a way. It's not alphabetical. Look, beryl is all the way down here.
Right.
Wow. There is some logic here, so I have to figure it out so I know. But definitely here, you could compare the two clipboards visually like this instead of asking. And then the next time when we meet, I'll make sure to have an answer for why in the compare functionality, it shows up differently than it does in the actual clipboard. But yeah, so that's about grouping and moving rubrics around and naming them, etc. We have 5 minutes if there is another question that is on someone's mind.
I currently have no questions. Maggie?
No.
Okay, so we'll stop here today. Thank you for all your questions. I also wanted to remind everybody about the live case workshop that I'll be doing at the Joint American Homeopathic Conference. And we're also setting it up to be a Zoom session. So if you would like to do or work on a case live, or a case that you would want to see me kind of take you through using SHS, and then please send in a 1-page summary of your case, and I could take it up. Lucy, can you remind us when that is?
It's
In
March
March.
23rd, Thursday, from 1 to 4 Central Time.
And how can someone register for it?
We send out a mailing,
Okay.
and please write to me at lucy@synergyhomeopathic.com if you did not receive the mailing, and I'll be happy to send you that link for registration for this training, for this workshop training.
Great. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Maggie and Lucy, for monitoring all the questions and comments. And we'll see you again next month, right? We don't have another training in February now. So we'll see you next month in March. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.